If you're interested in planting a fruit tree on your patio or balcony, it's absolutely possible. I'm Scott from Gardenworks, and I'm going to show you how. The first thing you want to do if you're going to plant a fruit tree is choose your tree, of course. And the best thing to do is choose a dwarf tree. Something, because fruit trees come in all sorts of sizes. This is a dwarf apple. It's grafted onto a dwarfing rootstock, and that's what makes it dwarf, so it won't grow too fast. It won't take up too much room. Another choice would be over on my right. I've got an espalier tree that has more than one variety on it, and those are fun if you have the space along a wall and you can just grow them along there. So once you've chosen your dwarf tree, you want to choose a container, and you want a really good sized container because you want to be able to sustain growth over a number of years. So this is a container that's about at least 24 inches or 60 centimeters in size, and about the same depth. An oak barrel or a half oak barrel is a really good choice as well. If you do a half oak barrel, remember you need to drill holes for drainage. The great thing about this is it's super light, and it has holes already for drainage, and it'll be easy to carry up to your patio or balcony. Once you've chosen your tree, then got your pot, and you say you have your pot on the balcony now, the next thing you want to do is fill it with a potting soil. The best potting soil to use would be a well-draining potting soil. There's several versions out there. What I've got today is My Soil Complete, which is a locally produced product. And the thing with this big container is it takes more soil. So this one's going to take 2 of these 50-liter bags. And of course, there's got to be some space to actually plant the tree, so don't fill it right up to the top. Nothing worse on your patio than having to then dig soil out and put it somewhere. My suggestion would be plant something else. And so once you have that, before you plant the tree, the next step would really be to add some fertilizer. And a starter fertilizer is good for trees and shrubs at the beginning. And we've got a black gold. It's an organic fertilizer. This is the material. It's granular, so you don't mix it with water or anything. You just throw it in the soil and mix it up really well so that it's well distributed through the soil. And their recommendation is you use about 2 cups of this per inch of caliper of tree. So just the diameter of the tree. And the tree we're planting today is only about a ½ an inch diameter. So about a cup, which is a couple handfuls, I think, of my handfuls. So I just take a couple handfuls and I mix it in before we even start. And there we go. So that's in there. And then you just mix it in so that it's well distributed. After mixing in the fertilizer, you're pretty much ready to plant. I actually hollowed out or made a good planting space in the container already because you should be ready for that. And if you can avoid when you're planting having to stop and then take some more soil out as best you can, that's the way to go. The end result is you want to have the container or the tree planted exactly the same depth it is in the container you're removing it from. The next step really then is to remove the plant from the container. And it can be tricky with fruit trees. Fruit trees, a lot of the fruit trees are grown in the farmer's ground, and then they're dug up in the late winter, and we get them with no soil around them. And we pot them up so that they can start growing roots, and so that we can have them for the season when our guests come in looking for a tree. So what you have to be careful is you don't disturb the root system too much. So I'm going to remove the pot or the plant from the pot now, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, let's have a look at it. All right, now here we have this is a Cox Orange Pippin apple, and here we are. We're going to try and pull out. So you shouldn't just yank the tree out, because what you do then is, you create some force on the tree, and it can pull roots off, small roots especially. You have, with most root systems, you have bigger roots, and then you have smaller roots and smaller roots too, and they all lead to the root hairs. And the root hairs are the ones that really feed the plant and get the moisture and the nutrients up. So you want to make sure you keep those intact. So that means being really gentle. So I recommend definitely laying it on its side, and you just wiggle it out. And this one's going to come out really easily because it's been rooted into the soil already. Earlier in the season, this would be less likely to be rooted in the soil, and soil might fall off. And that's okay. You just try and maintain as much of the root system as you can. If you do have trouble getting it out of the pot for some reason, another trick is to actually cut the pot with a pair of pruners. And I won't do that because we can use this pot again if we don't cut it. If we do cut it, it's recyclable, it's a number 2, and you can clean it up and put it in the recycling. So there we go. So now I'm just going to continue to gently remove this. And see, I'm sort of just wiggling the pot off. And then we can have a look at the root system along the sides. All right, so that went pretty well. Some of the soil fell off of the root system or the root ball a little bit, but there's a good intact root system. So the next thing we do is just to lift it up and place it into the container. And I just want to hold it together as much as possible. And I really did a great job, in my opinion, of anticipating what size of space I needed in there, because it's nestled in quite nicely. I don't have to ruffle the roots or anything because it's not all root bound. What I would say, one of the things I wanted to comment on is we're doing this in the dormant season right now, early, late winter, early spring, and that's about the best time to plant the trees because they haven't broken dormancy yet, and you give the roots some time to grow and be ready to supply the tree with moisture and nutrients as it leafs out, right? So that's why this is a great time to do it. When they're in pots, you can do it in the rest of the season too. It's just the best time is the early season, and after that, you're just going to have to be continue to be careful. And of course, the first year you want your plant to establish, so you make sure you're getting enough water and nutrients to it. Yeah, so didn't use this at all. But if you were planting in the ground, a lot of the same concepts actually apply to planting a fruit tree in the ground. All the things about being careful about removing the plant from the pot. The biggest difference would be that in the ground you'd want to add some compost and mix it in really well to the existing soil, then dig your hole so that you had the same situation. And of course with the potting soil we used, it's already got sort of a good addition of compost, so we didn't have to do that. So that's out. And we've planted it and it fit in really nicely. You just finish it off, and then one of the really important things anytime you plant something in a pot is to make sure you water it in. And that's not just to give it some water, it's also to settle the soil around the root system. The water settles around so you don't have air pockets. Air pockets are not good. Roots won't grow into the air pockets, and you could have a situation where the plant actually dries out, or as the soil settles, it's at a way different level. So you just water in to do that. This will make it heavier, so put it in place before you do that. There we go, we've watered it in. We've already done that. If you're planting a fruit tree in the ground or planting an espalier fruit trees, often you'd need to have a stake. It's very, very rare that if you're planting a dwarf fruit tree and you're planting it in a pot, you probably don't need to stake it. So I'm not going to show you too much about that. I just wanted you to know that I do know to use stakes when you plant in the ground. So we're pretty much done with the planting of it now. Sometimes you'll get a fruit tree, you might need a little pruning, another topic. This is a nice fruit tree with a decent head on it already. Look how dwarf it is. It's really on the ground. It's only 4 feet high, and it'll continue to grow, of course. And you might want to have another one as a cross-pollinator. So you might want 2 trees. So you take something like the Cox Orange Pippin and maybe another favorite like Liberty or something like that. I think that's about it. Later on you'll want to plant or feed it with a fruit tree fertilizer, and you might want to do that twice during the year, and you just sprinkle that on top and away you go. And hopefully within a couple years you're getting some apples.